He's not a bat, he's a man who fights crime. And we're gonna watch him fight for a minute at a time. With John and Niall and a guest who doesn't rhyme. It's Bat Minute!
Hello everyone, and welcome once again to Bat Minute and Robin. This is the podcast where we gotcha! In regards to talking about every minute of Batman and Robin, 1 minute at a time. I am one of the hosts, Niall McGowan.
And here with just 11 minutes to save the city, it is your other host, John Parker. I think we're doomed then. We go on for ages.
Yeah, I mean, that's like 15 minutes has already passed since the start of this minute. Like, it's just...
I mean, our episode's like, Jesus, we're like over an hour. So we have to do the episode and then save everyone. They're dead.
But everything gets more baffling next week when they're like, oh, we got to thaw these scientists. Like, they were frozen like 2 hours ago. What the hell's going on? But anyway, we'll get to that when we get to it. But joining us once again today, though, we do have a godsend information hub of all things Batman Forever. We have Neil Rickatson.
Hello, thank you for having me back. I just want to say, obviously, because this is an audio-only podcast, I'm actually wearing a special suit with a backpack and wings that pop out, and I've got missiles that fire from my arms.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, I can confirm, because we are all on cam right now. This is 100% true facts.
Yes. Yep. It's very similar to your normal clothes, but you just added some like little stripes.
It's very similar to Val Kilmer's one, and I've just resprayed it.
I think this racing stripe makes it look quite fetching.
Yeah.
But yeah, here they talk about... Oh, here's some crap in this minute. Like, this is like minute 104, which is like, I'm not a big action guy, and people listen to this show. Like, every time we come across action scenes, like, I think we always seem a little bit more like, we're more about all the dialogue and stuff. But like, this is terrible action in this minute. 104. It begins with some toys on parade, and it ends with a goon getting slayed. It's more ways than one. Slay like a Christmas sleigh.
Get it?
Yeah, nudge, wink, wink. Yeah, but like, okay, so first of all, going in here, we got the Robin swamp boat that he's on here, which I believe is technically, or is it? It's not the Jet Blade.
It's controversial.
The
Jet Blade is the toy, the name they gave to the toy.
Yeah.
Which is, close enough to what it looks like.
Actually, I've just realised something. Let me double check. When I jokingly said Batman's thing shouldn't be called the Bat Sled, I think that's what Robin's is called.
Yeah, I've got Bat Sled or Bat Skiff.
Yeah, here you go. Bat Sled, it says on the wiki. But you know, who can trust the wiki?
No.
No, the Guardian also say Bat Sled.
I'm surprised too as well that Kenner wouldn't go with Bat Skiff, because I only know the word skiff from all the Return of the Jedi toys.
Yep.
Very true.
Jabba skiffs and stuff. It's like,
and I still didn't know what that was. For years, I thought that's like a Star Wars term.
Oh yeah, me too. You just assume like, oh, they made that up for the toys or for Star Wars or what. Like, no, skiff is an actual thing.
I think Bat Skiff just doesn't sound exciting enough. Kenner were always all about so like whenever they had a Batman figure, they would always need to give it a new name. Obviously, they couldn't just call it Batman figure. So it was always like. There were always kind of words that they would always put in front, like ambush, attack, blade, wing, blast. So you had like wing blast, Batman, blast wing, Robin, and things like that.
The favorite I remember from Batman Returns was the laser blade cycle.
Oh yeah.
Even the way the guy said in the ad with that level of intensity, Batman's laser blade cycle. You're like, oh my God, I need this. I'm a 35-year-old man, but I need this thing right now.
The power of advertising.
The adverts for these toys were like something else too, because they're so 90s, you know?
Yeah.
Like it cuts to like a guy, just some guy, and he's very obviously dubbed. Like, because the guy doing the voice is like the voice you've heard in a million adverts. But he's like, who protects this city? And it's like a big red sky behind him. And then the kid's like, Batman! And it goes into a whole, like, you can buy all this crap now! And then at the end, the kid turns into, like, a big, kind of impressive animated version of Batman. And it's like, be the man, Batman! And it's very noticeable No real mention of Robin in the campaign. As if they knew, like, oh, it's called Batman and Robin. But ain't nobody wants to be Robin. I mean, come on, man. He's lame in comparison. So if you could be, I know the kids are closer in age, technically, even though, Chris O'Donnell's obviously 42 at this 42, point.
Yeah.
But yeah, you let them think they could be as cool as Batman. But they have, like, one of the ones was, like, in this movie, the one that stood out to me as an eyesore was, like, was it Heat Sonar Batman?
Heat Scan Batman. Is that the orange one?
Yeah. He's orange, and he's got this thing attached to his arm, which has got, like, big... I guess it's supposed to be like a scanner, but it's just, like, big plastic spokes.
Yes.
And it looks awful to me.
No, it's bad. You're right. It's not just you.
I listened to a podcast by Aaron Archer, who was one of the designers, and I think he said that specific one was designed, like, before... Like as soon as they were like, we're doing a Batman and Robin movie and it'll be Mr. Freeze, they designed that straight off the bat, as it were.
Well, we've discovered that's happened quite a lot. Like, that's one of the reasons this has even more toys that aren't in the film and doesn't have ones that are.
Yeah,
it's because they literally were just like, we need to make these toys right now.
Yeah, and do you want some figures on this, on where we've gone? So for Batman '89, Toy Biz did 3 figures. You had a Batman, a Joker, and a Bob the Goon. Then 1990, Kenner get the license, and they do something called Batman the Dark Knight Collection, which is still based on the '89 movie. They do 13 figures for that. Batman Returns, they do 23. Batman Forever, they do 35. For this one, they do 44 figures.
Jesus Christ. Okay, I know over time you might build to that. Like Star Wars always had.
Yeah.
You don't need to start off with that many figures.
I guess the market was there, otherwise you wouldn't do it. But
I mean, it could be a sign of their hubris. I mean, look what happened.
Yeah. I mean, breaking it down, that's 19 Batmans, 13 Robins, 5 Mr. Freezes, 2 Poison Ivies, 2 Banes, and 2 Batgirls. And some of those were in kind of 2-packs. Oh, and a Frosty, obviously Frosty the henchman.
Do you need 19 Batmans from this movie? Are there 19 different Batmans you can do? I mean, 5 is pushing it.
Yeah, here's what they did. Like, a certain amount of those were, they took the molds from the Batman Forever line, and then they recast the figures in like different colors. So you had like an Ice Blade Batman for Batman Forever, which was in kind of blue and white, and it was really cool. It had a color like translucent bits, and you could kind of see through it. So they reused that obviously for this line. Just popped a George Clooney head on, but they had to make it a different color. So they went with yellow and purple for some reason.
Okay, yeah.
But anyway.
There's so many horrible color clashes because all the repaints of all the Batman, they all look kind of terrible to me. Like there's a major emphasis on metallic paint. Like it's just, this is the way of the '90s is to have metallic paint on everything.
Oh
and you can tell there's like little things they do, like you can get the red bird, but the Robin that comes with it is yellow. Like he's got a yellow breast instead of the red one.
Yeah,
and it's almost kind of like, well, if you want to get one that looks like it does in the movie, you gotta buy another toy.
Yeah, you get the crap Robin as the freebie.
Yeah, and then it is the thing of the parents going like, but you have a Robin already, but like I don't want the Robin with the, and either you be a spoiled brat or you'll just have to deal with the fact like I don't want a yellow Robin, but this is what I got now, I guess.
Well, that's the thing. As a kid, it would annoy me.
Oh yeah,
like I had some Turtles toys. And this was quite common with the Turtles toys. Donatello was a different shade. Donatello was like brown almost. And it used to anger me. It's like, that's my favorite turtle. Why is he brown? He's supposed to be green.
I remember having Turtles toys, though, where the shade of green was like, it was almost borderline like turquoise, and it didn't look right either. So
yeah, they're weird as well.
Yeah, it's like a lot of shoddiness back then. I think maybe with ingenuity, but sometimes not great in the execution. Like,
plus we were probably buying dodgy ones down the market. Let's be honest.
Yeah. I think actually the Mr. Freeze I had from this, despite all those toys, I can only remember having one Batman and Robin toy.
Hey, except for the one I bought you a couple of months ago.
Oh, of course, yeah. But it was Ice Terror Mr. Freeze, where he came with his own little car thing.
Yes, yep.
And I just remember it was just basically Mr. Freeze, but because the original toy Mr. Freeze kind of looks a bit like Thanos almost. Like it's
yeah, I think again that was they were working so early. They were working off the concept art, so they didn't. Well, they might have known it was Arnie, but they weren't sure, so they put some like goggles on him and stuff, so you couldn't really make out.
Yeah.
It was only actually later in the toy line. And just to reference, this toy line started in '97. It was still running in '98. They were still releasing new figures in 1998. But yeah, it was those later figures that actually looked like Arnie, and he looks like he actually has the grey kind of metallic suit in that. Which again, annoyingly, they didn't make metallic. They'd use a kind of flat grey. It was infuriating.
Well, these days, those are the initial run of toys. You could use that gimmick as the selling point and make a fortune, I think. If you went, okay, our new line to go with the movie is all based on the concept art, and you called it, concept art Mr. Freeze, people would be like, oh my God, I need that.
I'm sure they've done something like that with kind of Star Wars. They've done toys based on kind of Ralph McQuarrie's original.
Oh, I've seen a Vader
kind of
based on that. Yeah.
This was the original Chewbacca, and it's kind of like, it's just some guy who looks nothing like Chewbacca, but
well, that's what they based that cartoon character. Was he Zeb? I think Zeb.
Yeah.
That's the original Chewbacca.
Now you can resell that same toy twice now because he was original Chewbacca in one iteration, and now he's Zeb. So. But I think like the so I was looking like some going into trying to see as many of these toys as I could just for like what all kind of crap that they have. And there's a guy on YouTube talking about them very enthusiastically, to be fair. He's going to be a big collector of toys in general. But he's talking about, one of the random yellow Batmans that looked, like, to me, looked terrible. But he's talking about, like, oh, yeah, I love this one. But I paid, like, $70 for this, and it showed up sun damage. And I was like, you paid $70 for, like, a thing that's just going to sit in the shelf? It's like, oh, man. But I'm going to bring that up because Neil could be sitting there going, like,
no.
$500
I'm definitely not that price. Yeah, there is. It's an awkward one to collect. I think Batman Forever is a bit easier. I think I found, like, a couple of. Because a lot of people kind of like those first two Burton films, and then they were like, do you know what? I'm just going to buy the Batman Forever ones. I'm just going to keep them in the box. I'm going to put them in the attic. And then, 20 years later, they're like, do you know what? I'm just going to sell these. But Batman and Robin, because it was such a young toy line, such a young kind of target audience, they're kind of a bit harder to get still in the packaging because kids just rip them open. And by that point, no one was really sort of like collecting them for sort of future antique purposes. So yeah, some of them are really, really difficult, and obviously the amount that they did, and the fact that the toy line ran into '98, and by the time those toys were coming out, the film had sort of it wasn't a lasting, should we say? I'm talking about kids. Like obviously, adults are furious because it was a kids film, but the kids weren't interested in it, and so they did lower production runs for those later toys, so that's why those are a bit hard to get as well. And also just it's Kenner went kind of a bit crazy in terms of the amount of figures that they made in the 90s. Like I'm just going to do like a quick kind of recap of where they got to, because the year they started making figures in 1984, they did the Superpowers toy line, which was all the DC characters. That's when they first did a Batman figure, and then after that, the license went to Toy Biz for the '89 movie. DC and Warner weren't happy with the Toy Biz quality and range, shall we say. So they begged Kenner to take the license back, and they did the Dark Knight collection. So from 1990, Kenner start making Batman figures for the movies, for the animated show, and they start doing their own kind of more comic book kind of accurate kind of figures. So they have Legends of Batman, they have Legend of the Dark Knight, which is like a kind of freaky, kind of more grown up Todd McFarlane sort of line.
I have a Legends of the Dark Knight Joker that I got when I was like 10. I still have it in
the one that kind of splits apart. Is that right? His top kind of No, I'm thinking of Legends of Batman with
this one he had
teeth?
like fingerless gloves and kind of weird spiky green hair and stuff.
That's the Legends of Batman one. Yeah. There's also Total Justice, which was like a kind of Justice League kind of toy line in 96, 97. So by 1996, the year before Batman and Robin comes out, Kenner released their 100th Batman figure. So from 1990 to 1996, they've done 100 Batman figures. That's not like Robin and Joker and Riddler and stuff, just 100 Batmans. And they do this kind of special kind of box. It's a big box. It's a big kind of chromed out kind of Batman, kind of chrome, silver and blue. And on the back, there's like a checklist of kind of all the toys from the animated series, from the whatever. So they went bananas. They went probably too hard with the amount. 100 figures in 6 years. It's nuts.
That's wild. How could people afford them all? But maybe they didn't expect you to. You buy the new one, you know.
No, the collecting kind of phase kind of didn't kick in until sort of like early 2000s, really. It was still kind of kids stuff.
I mean, there's bound to be several people in the world, though, who have all of them. Like,
oh, yeah, I'm sure, yeah. Not me, sadly.
Not you yet.
No. Some of those Batman Returns ones. I was speaking to someone today on Instagram, and I was just saying, some of those Batman Returns ones just like didn't come over to the shores in the UK, so they are just like way out my price league.
Yeah, it is a pain. It is a pain.
Yeah.
Very expensive. And then you factor in, you're going to get stung on import probably, even if they list it as a gift. I always get caught.
There's other little elements too, like in the merchandising bonanza of Batman and Robin, because obviously we talked last minute about the whole Taco Bell tie-in. And like their big competition that they had was like Unmask the Batman, where it was, you had the little plastic cup thing, but you peel off a sticker, it would be like Batman's face, and if Bruce Wayne was underneath, you could win millions of prizes, quote, which would range from like rollerblades to like a TV, and you could win the Batmobile. Went looking into it. No evidence that anyone ever won that Batmobile.
I was gonna say.
I'm gonna guess that you never could have won the Batmobile.
It would be like when people used to go and like pimp my ride, and then they'd sort of take the car home, and it would just look really out of place. So they couldn't like park it anywhere, and it's just
I've always wondered with that as well. Like, do they get you insurance for the new car?
I mean, we had that guy. Remember who in the competition in '89 won a Batmobile, and it turned out to be a nightmare for him because of things like that and the maintenance of it and like having to keep it secure and stuff. But you think he lost money by owning a Batmobile?
But it was still worth it.
I think at the end he was like, it was not worth it at all. It was
but he's got the Batmobile.
But the thing is, like, after you have it, it's just kind of like, I wouldn't know what to do with it. I'll be like, it's cool to have, but
sit in it.
It's like eat all my meals in it or something.
Yeah, woo the ladies.
But then Taco Bell, they also did their tie-in. They learned from McDonald's mistakes because obviously they're kind of been very cautious about things, because obviously one of the things that happened with McDonald's was that Batman Returns comes out and everyone's just like outraged. Parents are going on talk shows with their kids and making them say that they hated the movie and were scared of it and stuff like that. And McDonald's tried to do that thing of like, no, these toys aren't to do with Batman Returns. These are Batman toys in general. We're just celebrating the character of Batman. It's like, but they're all the Penguin and Catwoman and things to do with the movie. Like, no.
Coincidence.
Sheer coincidence. And Taco Bell, they actually did do that in advance, where that whole wave of stuff came out, but it's all to do with the animated series, but it's all hyper-focused around Batman and Robin characters. So, one of the things I had was the Botanical Trap, which was like a little thing which had a little plastic mold of back-to-back Lethal Weapon poster style sassy Mr. Freeze and Poison Ivy, but from the animated series. And it was like a little thing you fill up with soil, you put in the seeds, and it might be grass or I don't know, something like that, and you put little cardboard cutouts of Batman and Batgirl and stuff in there. And just loads of crap like that, just like little themed, like a Mr. Freeze, I'll say super soaker, not super soaker, but like a little, it squirts water. If you dump it in water, he squirts water and stuff. But it was just that you could see the cogs whirring of like, well, let's have it tied in to the movie, kinda. But also that TV show that's doing really well, and also if anything happens, like we have plausible deniability now of it being like it's to do with the cartoon, it's not to do with the movie. So
that's clever.
They also did some like kids kind of picture books where they redrew, instead of using stills from the film, for some reason they redrew it in kind of like the Bruce Timm style. So you had kind of like the Batman and Robin and Batgirl, but they were wearing kind of the movie costumes, but it looked kind of much more like the animated series.
Yeah, that's a real bizarre oddity. That's kind of almost like an oxymoron now. Bizarre oddity. But yeah, it's such a weird thing that like, yeah, there was I think they brought out like towels and coloring books and stuff. And yeah, it's like Batman the animated series, but wearing the costumes from the movie. So it's Mr. Freeze, but he's drawn to look a bit like Arnie. It's Ivy, but it's kind of the concept out of Ivy where she's wearing like a leaf mask and stuff, and it's one of those weird things. Like, was this supposed to be? Because it was around the time where they were redesigning a lot of the, between that and the new Batman Adventures, and you'd go like, I really hope they weren't considering using that as a design at some point. Like they were actually going to go with this version of the characters because they were horrific. But then, of course, most of the designs they use for the new Batman Adventures are horrific anyway.
Yeah.
but anywho, second two of this minute.
Sorry, we haven't started talking. Yeah.
Actually, that's a good point. Yeah, I don't think have I hit a single one of my notes. I don't think so. I mean, the gang are arriving. That's as far as we got on their vehicles. Now, I had the name of Batgirl's one as well. Where is that? I've got that written. That's the Batblade, which is another cool name. I think that's pretty awesome. Even though ultimately it's just a nice bike. There's not a lot to it.
It's just it's not as cool as Laser Blade Cycle. So it's you're kind of getting there, but come on.
I think the toy was called the Ice Strike Cycle.
That's pretty cool.
And they've missed a pun there with Ice Cycle, but anyway.
Oh,
that's like the whole thing of this. Everything to do with this movie is like it's right there, just a little bit to the side though. Like
maybe
Mr. Freeze, who painted everything else metallic. We released a new Mr. Freeze, but he's not metallic. Even though he's metallic in the movie. He's like, for Christ's sake, people, just pay attention to what you're doing.
Maybe with this though, they thought that was sort of infringing on Freeze's property. You know, like, well, she can't have something named after ice.
Yeah, that's true. They didn't. Yeah. One of the things I picked up in the novelization for this scene, because it's very different in the novelization. I did notice there's a lot more puns that the Batman and Robin and Batgirl are sort of saying.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's. I mean, because I get the sense, like, I don't know if this was like in the original script, and then they were like, actually, that sounds really difficult. Can we just have the vehicles just drive forward? I'm just trying to find. Yeah, I think Batman takes down a Freeze henchman and then says, "Don't sink and drive," because I think he like sinks him into like a pool of kind of icy water and things like that. But yeah, it just doesn't sound right coming out of Batman's mouth.
No, that's weird. And I mean, in the draft, there's quite a lot of extra stuff as well. It's just more chat, more sort of back and forth, little jibber jabber. They're giving each other, like, Batman's like, "Attack Plan Alpha," and he peels left, and Robin's like, "Alpha, Roger," and he goes to the right. It's all like, yeah, and then Batgirl just says, "What the hell is Attack Plan Alpha?" That's pretty funny. I'll give him that.
Yeah, it's a bit like Han Solo when he's in the Millennium Falcon. He's like, "I know some moves," and he's just like listing slightly to the left.
That always made me laugh because I don't think Lucas was going for that being funny. But over the years, everybody's found it so funny. It's kind of become the thing. Like, Han's chatting nonsense. He doesn't know what he's doing.
Yeah.
And something else that's bizarre is, you see these cars in front of them just go flying, and you're like, what's this? And it's Freeze's, like, super tank, baby. But he's not behind the wheel. That baffled me. He trusts a goon with his car.
This guy, I think this guy's recurred a couple of times. There's always this one guy in this particular hockey mask who's always very jolly.
He's the Bob.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And this is a real, again, kind of like it feels like they're cheaping out a little bit. If it's Schumacher just going like, we can simplify that, save a couple of bucks. Because I know in the script and the novelization, it's a much more elaborate, fight and stuff in the street. And there's supposed to be like several goons. Like Plan Alpha is divide and conquer, so you have to separate all the goons and take them down one by one. And this is like, we got one guy in that tank you already saw, and he just fires a load of rockets, and that's the fight.
Yeah, this guy is useless. Freeze shouldn't have trusted him with the tank, because he just fires rockets all over the place, barely hits a thing. And it probably doesn't help that these are clearly fireworks.
Yeah.
It's finally too getting the thing we were complaining about way at the start of the movie. Like, what's with all the spikes at the front? Because I've seen this movie the least, so I just forgot that this happened at the end.
Yeah.
And was just kind of like, well, why has it got all... It's supposed to be a drilling truck. Why has it got a bunch of... the spikes drills? But no, the spikes were rockets the whole time. And it's only now he's decided to crack these out. But it does feel like that at this point. They were like, oh no, I was going to say at this point they would have had the toy, but they never made the toy. So
they never made the toy. No, crazy.
I still can't wrap my head around this. This is the thing you make the toy of the most. This is the villain's vehicle to go up against like your Batmobile and your Bathammer.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't you make it?
I don't know, but just I appreciate this isn't the minute, but I just want to talk about like the opening bit of the film where the Freeze-mobile does turn into a rocket. I was watching my two 4-year-olds play with Batman figures the other day, and I just realized how very much that beginning sequence does feel like kids playing with a toy. Because when my kids play with toys, they're like, "This car's now a rocket," and then they'll sort of like throw it up in the air as if it's kind of like taken off, and it's now the rocket's exploding. It's very like, I don't know whether that was like deliberate, like, oh, I'm thinking of how kids play with toys, but yeah. Anyway,
it probably is. I mean, ultimately, that's what they're trying to do here. They're trying to.
I know there was something about was Elliot Goldenthal said when he came up with his Batman theme tune, that dun, 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 he had kind of like what would be in a kid's head when they're playing with figures or when they're reading a book. Like he was like putting himself in a kid's mind, like what's that's what kid has in his mind.
Yeah, well, it's kind of, this is the point I had for next minute, but it kind of ties into what you're saying. Like when they go into the observatory, Freeze has put on a little light show, like which is obviously part of their normal service, where there's all like planets and stuff over the roof, but it looks very kind of childlike, and it kind of reminded me as if it was like they were trying to make it look like a kid's bedroom.
Like those night lights that you put on, it kind of shines the thing on the ceiling.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it's almost as if they're kind of making a commentary. It's like, yeah, this is like kids playing with toys in a room at night when they got all that on, and this is like, the rockets on the edge of the desk or whatever, and like,
that's all the giant statues that are kind of around Gotham. Like I see those as kind of like those are the kids. When you stand with your figures, they're tiny, and you're the giant statue.
Oh, I love that.
There you go. Well, that actually makes really good sense now. I'm like, that's I don't know.
There is an element of this where just like you have to just accept that it is a kids movie, and you can't really bring an adult brain to try and enjoy it.
No, you've hit the nail on the head. That's exactly what the filmmakers were going for.
And watching this, like I watched this with my kids, actually really recently. I was stuck somewhere for 2 hours, and it was snowing, and like I didn't want to just drive back, so I just kind of stayed at this place and put on Batman and Robin on my little phone for my kids to watch, and they were wrapped in it.
Oh, nice.
So it does work, at least for a 4-year-old brain.
And ultimately, that's all that matters, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, if that is your target demo, it's like, well, how can you be mad at us for reaching the demo? Like that's...
Yeah, and I guess like from a business perspective, it's one of those things where like there were people who were kind of 10 when Batman 89 came out. So by the time you've got to kind of Batman and Robin, you've either got to age up the content to fit that group, or you restart and you go back to we got to go back to get the kids in. Like it makes sense from a business perspective, but I know a lot of people don't like that business perspective.
One thing I definitely don't like is, again, the action it's kind of lame this whole minute.
Yeah.
And was one stunt that's just like unforgivable, where
Oh, I hope it's not the one that I've written down that I love.
This is Batgirl.
But that's
the one I love.
But it's the way she goes off the bike, where it's very clearly a harness, as if you can see her back arching, where that's like it's almost like Gwen Stacy freaking falling down, Spider-Man catching her, kind of like, but she's going up instead of down.
But it's cool. I mean, she does a backflip off a bike.
That's because it comes from like it's the fact that it looks in no way realistic. And
no, you can almost see the wires. Just or maybe you can't see the wires, but you can tell exactly where the wires are lifting her up. It reminds me of kind of like after The Matrix, and everyone was sort of like, oh, we're going to put wire fu in our film as well, but they didn't really know how to do it, so they were just like, things like Bulletproof Monk and Charlie's Angels, where it's just like, we don't really care that it looks like these people are on strings.
They didn't even understand why they were doing it. That's the difference.
Exactly.
Like, that the Wachowskis were sort of revering these movies they've sort of grown up watching, whereas Charlie's Angels is like, let's do that Matrix thing.
Yeah.
Don't you dare say anything against the Drew Barrymore produced Charlie's Angels movie.
Hey, Drew Barrymore in it, great. Everyone else, nah.
Yeah. But Bill Murray is alright, I guess, even though
true.
He was an absolute horror on set. But and Sam Rockwell's actually pretty good as well. But and the sequel, Justin Theroux with his horrendous Irish accents. But when Bat goes on this backflip off, it's the fact that it's like, not only can you kind of imagine where the wires are, she flips and it kind of stops midair and then just goes straight up.
Yeah.
As if she was coming out of one of those machines or something. A claw came down and got her.
Yeah.
Story-wise, though, it shows a good sort of rapport with Robin, because he immediately kind of gives her a platform to land on with his vehicle, doesn't he? Like they're working well together.
Yeah.
Some say, yes, he flipped up on her back, somehow turned around and faced the other direction, and then fell straight down onto the platform. Once again in her high heels, because we know she could do that from from her landing in Ivy's den. And he's just like, oh yeah, but that's the thing about all the vehicles too, is because like as impressive as the Bathammer looks and the Robin Swamp Boat and stuff, they look like they're going very slowly as well.
They do, yeah. There's no sense of speed or anything.
Well, yeah, and this bike, how does it stay upright when she jumps off it? Does it have cruise control?
I guess so. Yeah.
Bikes are wobbly. That thing would fall over.
It's inspired by the other recent hit sequel, Speed 2 Cruise Control. Just wanted to bring an element of that into this as well.
That's actually quite topical, because Keanu brought that up as of recording last week. People were asking him about it, and he was on board for doing a sequel, and he said, well, as soon as I heard it was on a boat, I was like, no, I'm out. That's stupid.
And of course they got the Joel Schumacher favorite, Jason Patrick.
Yeah, Jason Patrick, yeah.
And I think I sort of just torpedoed Jason Patrick's career for like a long time. But yeah, one thing though with the Batski, it's called the Batski boat. Oh my god, the Bronski Pete's back. The Bat Hammer. How can I forget that name? The friggin' Bat Hammer. Mr. Freeze goon, Frostbite or Frosty. Although I think Frosty's dead.
Yeah, Frosty's dead. Yeah, I looked that up as well. Yeah, he looks like the action figure that was called Frostbite. So I don't know whether that must have been confusing for Mr. Freeze. Frostbite.
Was it that Frostbite toy does look cool to me?
That does, yeah. I think they skip on the. Doesn't he have like a skull codpiece?
Oh yeah,
I think, and they don't put that on the toy. Sadly.
See, that automatically makes everyone cooler.
Yeah.
It's like, I'm just wearing a skull codpiece right now, just around the house.
I wear it to
myself.
work.
Yeah, just could do it for you sometimes, you know.
Wear the cod piece that you want to see in the world.
Well, we'll be talking of cod pieces in the next episode, actually, as well, because they do stick out quite a bit. But yeah, the Frostbite tries to blast the Bathammer, and we get this element of... This is the only explanation of this in the entire movie, where Batman does a little shields. Almost like a little callback to 89 there.
Yeah.
And he somehow managed to get the material of the Bathammer to deflect the ice beam and go back onto the Freeze-mobile. And this is the thing, like, we'll talk about it in the next minute, but that's what's supposed to be on the suits as well.
That would make more sense, yeah.
Yeah, they've got a reflective coating that somehow bounces back the freeze beam. You know, obviously, you don't need a scientific explanation for why that happens, but it's just odd that it's in like these suits will show up out of nowhere. There is a rationale for them.
It needed that explanation because at least in Batman Forever, it's like, well, all the other suits are destroyed, and this is the only one you have left.
Yeah.
So,
prototype, but you haven't perfected it yet. But, I love that minute so much, though. Tonight's a good night. But yeah, this is the only kind of, if you did, because he never mentions that it's even that the thing's painted in some sort of alloy. So you're just like, oh, could you do that the whole time, or what is this? Could you just hold up a mirror to the freeze beam and it would deflect again? Why is he having to say shields? Shouldn't it be on all the time? Like, is it the material? Is it the paint? What is doing this?
Look at the way the shield works. I think if it's up all the time, it compromises the ability to do other things. This is a special deflector for special occasions.
But we get the nice angle on the Bathammer on its side there. The little detailing on the wing weirdly reminded me of the interior of the Predator ship at the end of Predator 2.
Yeah.
It's kind of an Arnie reference.
You're really stretching there, but I'll give you it.
Yeah.
It's like it's also an inferior sequel to a movie that has something to do with Arnie, kind of like this movie is.
Yeah.
Although long-time listeners will know that me and John, defenders of Predator 2. Great movie.
It's
sure. No, I agree. Yeah,
it's a good movie. It's not a great movie.
John's turning
No.
sides.
I've always said this, right? I like it and I watch it, but it can't hold a candle to the first one. I mean, it's got Gary Busey. That helps.
And the cast is stacked in that thing too.
Yeah. I think it's just the general miserable kind of feeling to the movie where it's the near future and society's basically fallen apart. It's halfway to Mad Max.
It's kind of halfway to Batman, really.
Yeah,
it is basically a Batman. You could throw Batman into that world. It's like makes total sense.
Batman versus the Predator.
That is actually a comic line. Batman. That is the thing we should do. We should cover as a hiatus for the Patreon or something. Those Batman versus Predator comics.
I saw it in
the first one's great. Yeah,
I saw it in an antique shop, bizarrely once, a collection of them, and I almost bought it.
Oh man, that would be like the biggest kick in the teeth to Arnie ever. It's like, oh man, I saw one of your comics the other day in an antique store. Like you old git.
Oh, bless him.
He's like, I can take it.
Actually, speaking of Arnie, he has another bit in the draft here. There's another section that was cut out. I quite liked this. He just sort of is speaking to himself and to Bane, and he goes, "Ivy failed to unmask the dynamic duo. No matter, the Bat and Bird are mine at last. Watch, Batman, as your beloved Gotham freezes, and prepare to die." Because you're next. It's like, very cheesy. You don't need it in a movie, but I like it, like written down.
Yeah.
Well, notice the last time Arnie said the Bat and Bird, I kept thinking it sounded like Battenberg.
The Battenberg.
So they were like, we barely got away with it that time. Let's not have him say it again.
Well, Arnold, he's Austrian. He likes a bit of marzipan, I'm sure.
Well, he's got a jaw that can get through it anyway, at least.
A very underrated cake, the Battenberg. I'm a fan.
The Battenberg, I guess.
That could be the name. We could open a pub, a Batman-themed pub here in Liverpool, the Bat and Bird.
Yeah. And then you serve Battenberg cake with everything.
Yeah.
I know, the dark stout and stuff.
Oh, see, this makes itself. Right, that's it. Screw the show. We're going to go open a pub.
It can't be any worse than that restaurant in London, the Park Row.
Oh.
The Park Row one.
Yeah.
It's too subtle for me.
I do kind of now knowing what it's about, though. It's like, well, if I was in London,
Oh, I would go. I wouldn't care.
I would go, yeah. And complain.
Hopefully in, I don't know if it's coming anytime soon, but in post-pandemic times or just when things are safer, maybe we should do a special episode, John. We can go down to the Park Row in London for a trip.
I've charged my portable recorder, and my mates in Bedford want to take me into London.
I thought, because I wonder, it's supposed to do that that Beetlejuice musical was supposed to come to the West End too. It's like, obviously now probably not going to happen for a while. But if it ever does, we can go make a day of it, go down to the West End, stop into Park Row for some dinner. We'll have a week's worth of content out of that thing then. Yeah, it'll be perfect.
It's happening.
But yeah, I think that's all I got for minute 104. Anyone else got anything for 104?
No, the only thing I'm gonna point out is obviously the vehicles don't get destroyed this time. You know, the Bat ski boat got totaled, the Bat wing got blown up, the Bat boat got blown up. All these vehicles coast through unscathed, which I think is maybe part of the problem with the film. There's no real sense of danger or excitement or anything.
I think that's a deliberate choice, sadly. I think they were like, well, we don't want to destroy the vehicles. We don't want people to be worried about the heroes.
Yeah.
It's for children.
My cynic would say as well, like, well, we keep destroying these cars, which means we have to make multiples of them.
Yeah.
To destroy one of them. If you just don't blow it up, we can just use the one.
Yeah, that's true.
Plus, then they probably think, well, you know, we're making a fifth movie. So.
Yeah. That's true. I mean, when they wheel out like all the Batmobiles every so often, don't they? And kind of take them. They never take the Bat Hammer. I'm afraid
it's too unwieldy. I think it's like
the black sheep of the family.
Imagine driving this thing around. As you say, it's enormous.
But you think things are bad for the Bat Hammer? The Robin skiff is just like
a forgotten masterpiece.
Yeah. It's in a skip. Really, isn't it?
The Robin skip.
There you go.
Well, with that, we will skip off into the dark, dark night. So do join us again on Friday, listeners, for more Bat Minute and Robin. See you then.
Next time, ladies and gentlemen, the Soggy Bottom Bats. In constant sorrow through his days, I am a bat of constant sorrow. I've seen trouble all my days. I won't bid farewell to frozen Gotham, the place where I was born and raised, the place where he was born and raised. For many years I was flying solo, but I got friends to help me now. Buck and his telescope bound terrific trio decipher how to defrost them shores. Decipher how to defrost them shores.
We'll be back.